Hello and welcome to the Beckoning Bookshelf. I'm your host, Jeffrey Ashcraft. I have finished Book 2 of C.S. Lewis's science fiction trilogy. And wow, it was a doozy. It was not what I expected. And it really ramps up pretty much everything. It takes the trilogy from seeming like a fun space adventure to more of a space epic, kind of, in my opinion. So let's talk about that. Perelandra was published in 1944 and, of course, is the sequel to Out of the Silent Planet. Interestingly, this may not have been the originally planned sequel. So this is just a kind of a random side note. But Walter Hooper, who was Lewis's literary executor, he claims to have found manuscripts after C.S. Lewis passed. And these manuscripts apparently contained stories that C.S. Lewis had never finished. Well, Hooper collected these stories and published them in a book titled The Dark Tower and Other Stories under C.S. Lewis's name. The supposed original sequel to Out of the Silent Planet is the story titled The Dark Tower, where it has Dr. Ransom, it has science fiction elements, including interdimensional travel, and it apparently has some similarities to Book 3 of C.S. Lewis's science fiction trilogy titled That Hideous Strength. But it's apparently debatable as to whether or not these stories were actually written by Lewis, due to apparently different writing styles, different vocabulary, suspicious origins, just a bunch of stuff, which we're not going to cover here. That's a whole nother topic, and I haven't read them anyway. But very random piece of information for you, just a fun fact. But out of the published works, Perelandra is the definite sequel. So, what is this book about? Well, spoilers for Out of the Silent Planet, clearly. We once again follow Dr. Ransom on another space adventure. This time, he visits the planet Perelandra. And he does so willingly, by the way. He's no longer being abducted by megalomaniac physicists. But this isn't a space vacation because Perelandra is invaded by a dark force. And it's up to Dr. Ransom to stop it. So will he succeed? Or will Perelandra fall? Ooh. So, let's cover, of course, one of my favorite parts about these books, the planet. Again, C.S. Lewis has created a whole new, unique, deeply rich planet that is just a lot of fun to explore, a lot of fun to imagine. It's very different from Malacandra and Earth, and again, it just shows C.S. Lewis's just talent and creation and imagination. And again, his love of nature, his love of the planets that he has created, because he goes into such rich detail. It's really cool. And of course, you can see it here on the cover here, an illustration of the planet. Now, let's talk about the story itself. I think the story can be separated out into two parts, the first half and the second half. The first half is a lot similar to Out of the Silent Planet, in which it's mostly just a research expedition. It's Ransom exploring the new planet, learning about it and its inhabitants. And personally, I had even more trouble getting through this one than I did with Out of the Silent Planet. I found it harder to get through because of two reasons. First is there isn't an overarching goal in the first half of the book. In Out of the Silent Planet, Ransom, of course, has to find a way home. But in Perelandra, he goes to the planet willingly, and he isn't sure why. And neither are we as readers. So while he's exploring the planet, that's pretty much all that's happening. There isn't an end goal in sight. Secondly, there's a lot of theological and philosophical discussions that take place in the first half of the book that I just had trouble following. C.S. Lewis's intellect is far beyond mine, and a lot of stuff he talked about, I just couldn't grasp it. It just went over my head. I'm not that smart, so yeah. So those made the first half of the book. While again, I love exploring the planet. I love the planet's concept, and I would love to see these planets portrayed in cinema. It would be awesome. It was still kind of hard to get through because it was rather aimless and a little too deep for me at times. But let's talk about the second half of the book. That's where the plot really starts to take off and the dark force is identified. And I think this book takes a trilogy from just space adventures to more of a space epic type feel. Because in book 1, Out of the Silent Planet, the antagonists were evil, but they did just kind of seem just crazed weirdos, to be completely honest. This one, the antagonist is shown to be an actual threat to all the planets, to Malacandra, to Perelandra, to Earth, and it is an actual problem. So I think in that way it becomes more space epic type of story. Also, the antagonist is terrifying. Hands down, one of the most unnerving antagonists I have ever read in any book. C.S. Lewis did way too good of a job writing this antagonist. Just, ugh. I did not like the antagonist at all. And if you would have read this book to me when I was a kid, I would have had 100% nightmares from the antagonist. If I could have gotten through the boring parts. But, yeah. Hands down, one of the most unnerving villains I've ever read in any book. So, good job, Lewis, for writing a very, very scary antagonist. Now, let's get to the religious aspect. It's C.S. Lewis, Christian scholar. And Out of the Silent Planet had just kind of a sprinkling of religion. Not much, really backseat. This one, religion takes the front seat. The whole book is practically based on religion now. This is slight spoilers, but personally I think it establishes the book better. So it's a better synopsis in my opinion because it makes me more interested in reading the book. But Perelandra is a reimagining of the Adam and Eve story, but on the planet, Perelandra. So, we all know the Adam and Eve story, and we know how it ends. Well, it seems that Dr. Ransom is trying to get a different ending to that story. So once I realized that, I got very interested in getting to the end of the book. Because I really wanted to know, one, if he would succeed, because the antagonist was just really a real threat. I'll say that right now, the antagonist was a real threat, and I was not sure if Ransom was going to succeed. So good on Lewis for that. And second, if Ransom does succeed, how is he going to succeed, and what is the ending going to be? I was very curious to find out. So much so that I want to do a second video on this book talking more about that because it was fascinating. It was very interesting to discover what happens. That's the best way I can say it without giving out spoilers or anything like that. So, of course, it'll be spoiler-ridden. So, watch at your own risk. You've been warned. Anyways, so I'll be posting that because I really want to talk about it a bit more. But I won't be dissecting anything really because I'm not a scholar or a philosopher or anything like that. I'm literally just a guy who reads books. So, should you read this book? Yes, if the stuff I've talked about you find interesting. But I think Perelandra really starts to get far more niche target audience than Out of the Silent Planet did. I think Out of the Silent Planet is a very good standalone novel that people can that general audiences could really enjoy. While Perelandra, I think, really starts to limit its target audience because, again, of the rather long and seemingly boring opening because it's so aimless and how just deep some of the discussions go, it may be off-putting to a lot of readers. That's not to say that it's poorly written, but it can become a drudgery to get through. And I know others who would not like the antagonist. Like at all. They would not like the antagonist. And on that note, I would say that this book is 100% written for adults. This is not a children's book. Some people tend to think that C.S. Lewis books are for children, like all of them. They're not. But this one 100% is intended for an adult audience. Just because of just how deep the philosophy goes and, in my opinion, how unnerving the antagonist can be. But, again, if you found any of that interesting, yeah, pick it up. Read the book. It is fascinating. Especially if you want to see how it ends without me spoiling it. So, there you go. But that's all I have for you. Thank you for being here. You are amazing. You are awesome as always. And if you've read the book, tell me what you think about it. Also tell me, like, maybe what age you read it at. I saw a comment about someone who read Out of the Silent Planet at the age of 10. I was not that intelligent of a kid. So, congratulations at reading the book. So, you are smart. But yeah, and tell me what scary villains you've encountered in books. What villains do you find unnerving that you would not want to meet in a dark alley or any alley, or just know that they're in the same town as you type villains? Yeah, that's my opinion. That's this guy, this villain here. But that's it. Thank you for being here as always, and go find yourself a good book.